Well, everyone, today is really special on Global Wellness Conversations. We get a ground floor view of a soon to launch game changer, the OYE app for mental wellness, created by reggaeton superstar J Balvin, as well as his co-founders. But before we get to the co-founders, who we are so lucky to talk to today, let me set the stage for what it means to have someone like J Balvin behind this, how it might reach more people. Jay is the number one. He has the most number one songs on the Billboard Latin airplay chart. But forget that. He's the only Latin artist to reach number one on the Billboard chart 174 times. He's sold 35 million records, but forget that too. In 2018, he was the most streamed artist in the world, 58 million downloads. And since then, he's always in the top 10 of streaming, often number one. In fact, in 2020, Time called him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. That's Jay. And that is a good reason to give this app some attention. But who we're speaking to today is Mario Chamorro. He's the CEO and founder of OYE. He's waving at us now for those of you on YouTube. He is an ed tech executive and a happiness activist. And his reputation is to create socially impactful initiatives. And let's see, what does it say? That his initiatives have touched the lives of 45 million people in 33 countries. You'll find his media page and you'll get all inspired. And then we're also joined by Patrick Dowd, co-founder. He's a global creative and a social impact executive. He was most famous for being the head of brand innovation and collaboration for PayPal. He's done a lot more since then. He's also spoken at the White House, U.S. Department of State, the U.S. mission to the UN, and lots of communities around the country. Gentlemen, welcome. Can I ask you each a question before we go any further?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with Mario. What made you happiest today, Mr. Happy?
My dad is currently coming out of coma, and he got a brain stroke. And today, that was exactly 24 days ago. And today he was able to sit on his chair by himself. So that's the happiest thing that happened to me today.
Oh, and we're so happy to hear that too. That's a big one. Patrick, how about you?
I went for a walk this morning around a pond in Maine with my girlfriend, and we sat down on a bench and heard a beautiful song of a loon, which I had never heard before, I don't think. And it sounds like a most incredible wooden flute just echoing across the sound. That was a very happy moment.
Oh my goodness. Well, I wanted to be there. My happy thing is that a few days ago, I fell on the hike trail because I'm a big hiker and I wore the wrong shoes and I tripped on a root and a tree bit me. But guess what? I'm really fine. And today I'm going to play pickleball after this. So that's what makes me really happy. Okay. So right to also set the stage for why this conversation is so wildly important to the Global Wellness Summit and Initiative. You know, the Institute, the Global Wellness Institute, is a nonprofit all about research. They want to educate the public and private sectors about preventative health and wellness. And the summit is the only international gathering focused on the business of wellness. And guess what? The Institute was the first to quantify the global mental wellness economy. In fact, in 2020, they break it down to 11 categories. The mental wellness economy was valued at $131 billion. And also, listen to this, gentlemen. I don't think you've seen it yet. The Global Wellness Institute says these 5 things about mental wellness. It's more than just the absence of mental illness. It's the active process of moving from languishing to flourishing. It also helps shift perspective away from stigma to shared humanity. And it grows out of grassroots consumer-driven movements. And it's also multidimensional, holistic, and personal. So can you tell us what OYE is now that we've set the stage for how much it fits into this goal? Mario?
OYE is the next generation disruption on the wellness world. OYE is an ecosystem that is starting with an app that embodies and brings emotional and creative wellness to the world. That means we are bringing together the best mental and emotional and creative wellness from the Latin American world, which means Latin America, but also Latinx around the US and overseas, together with all their different practices into this app that will be available on September 20. At OYE, our purpose is to help the world to feel better. And in a personal basis, as I was sharing earlier, my dad has been going through this episode, and I've been using OYE's content to go through this difficult moment in my life. And regardless that I'm a happy man or I'm a happy person, we all go through tough times, and our emotions go in a roller coaster. And no better time for me to test OYE, but in probably one of the most difficult times in my life, which is my dad going into like a really tough process. And thanks to these practices from different wellness instructors at OYE, not only myself, but myself and my mother have been going through this episode and learning a lot about ourselves and being able to face this in a much better attitude and to canalize our emotions into creative energy and to shape not only our future, but our dad's future as well.
Oh, my goodness. So you're saying that at the touch of our fingertips at an app on a phone, we can go through exercises. First of all, OYE means listen, right? It means listen. So Patrick, can you tell me what someone might experience just looking at that app? What sort of prompts would they get?
Yes. The core purpose of OYE's app is to help members transform their emotions into creative action. And in order to do that, features of the app help our members to complete daily emotional wellness check-ins that help them to inventory how they're feeling and name their feelings. And based on that, we recommend content to them that is in the app. And that content is largely meditations, movement exercises, and conversation guides to talk about your emotions with your friends, family, and peers. And our vision for OYE and what's unique about what we're doing in the wellness space is that we see the purpose of wellness in the context of our app and ecosystem as becoming creative and embodying your creative being. And there are many wonderful wellness tools that already exist in the world. And each one of them has their own implicit goal, whether it is to help you relax or become more productive at work or improve your relationships. And we feel that what is really unique about OYE is that our hope for our users is that they get in touch with their feelings, acknowledge them, and then channel them into creative action, which is what our co-founder, J Balvin, has done on a huge global scale. And now we're trying to make that same practice and habit of personal transformation and creative growth really accessible and fun and engaging for next generation of people that are interested in wellness.
Well, you know, it is so powerful. Last night we take a Portuguese class, my husband and I, and there's a lot of Hispanics in the class. So I went up to I talked to two different girls in their 30s, and one is from Peru. And I said, do you listen to J Balvin? Yeah, reggaeton. Yeah. And she wanted me to know what reggaeton really was and understand it. And she immediately told me, watch his, documentary, The Boy from Medellin. And she knew he was open about his mental wellness challenges. And then I talked to a girl from El Salvador, and she said the same. She's like, he talks about mental health all the time, and he has a little boy. And, how did that help you guys decide to join forces with him? How does that kind of platform encourage you in this mission to give people a tool? Mario, what do you think?
Mm-hmm. So I think this is part of the heart of OYE, and is, again, as you mentioned earlier, J Balvin, his name is Jose, and we call him Jose. So Jose, besides being a great pop star and artist and has this massive reach, what it makes him very unique to Oye is his commitment with mental wellness and emotional wellness. So he has been one of the very first reggaetoneros in opening up about his depression, anxiety, and his mental wellness challenges. And reggaeton, as well as urban art, is it's very, you have to be very tough. So he has been using the power of vulnerability to open up and just to talk very openly about his challenges. And thanks to that, he started creating conversations from his audience about what was going on in their lives, especially in their mental and emotional wellness challenges. And thanks to that, the stigma has been reduced. So with that in mind, I mean, and Jose has been doing that for over 3 years. So this is not new. And with that in mind, during the pandemic, that became way stronger. And as you know, mental wellness challenges duplicated during the pandemic.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was when Jose said, hey, he believes his life purpose is definitely to make a change on this particular field. And that's how he ended up reaching out to myself and to Patrick, that together we ended up building Oye. So yes, he has an enormous commitment on that particular front.
Yeah. You want to surround yourself with good people. So you can see that he's built that team. But Patrick, I read on your website, I think your company, Stellar is the name of it, and you help brands be socially aware and inspire them to stand out and get attention. You said 3 things: discover, design, deploy. So in discovering the need for this sort of app, I was reading a study, I guess it was a Harris poll, that said 40% of Hispanic Americans and 29% of Black Americans rated their mental health as poor. 62% of Hispanic respondents said they know a lot of people battling mental illness, but only 41% were committed to speaking openly about it. So tell us how these sort of stats fed the need for this.
Well, one of the key beliefs that our team embraces is that wellness doesn't have to look one way. Mm-hmm. And when we look at the existing wellness space, there is a homogeneity to it that is something that we're bringing a new energy to, which is more diverse and more urban, younger, and has a different feel. And to be honest, I'm not even the best person to be delivering this message as a white man, but I'm in service of it as a team member. And it's really interesting. I think what is going on with Oye is challenging a paradigm of the way that inclusion is normally spoken about in the United States, which views Latin American and other demographics as being minorities that need to be included in a conversation. Is really the opposite with Oye, because the conversation is starting in Latin America, being inspired by Latin American communities and wellness traditions, and then we're broadcasting that out to the world and including non-Latin audiences in that dynamism, in that vitality, in those traditions, in that inspiration. So I think it's very unique the way we're approaching it that way. And certainly there are not other wellness platforms that we've seen that are Latinx first. We are, and we're very proud of that. And I've just been so humbled and inspired by the vision and the commitment and the soulfulness of all of my Latinx colleagues who have rightfully so much pride in their culture, and they want to share that with the world. And that's what OYE is about.
Yeah. Speaking of the Latinx culture, Mario, everyone should visit your press page. I had so much fun hearing your Google talk. I think it was from 2014, but tell us how you go from being a farmer's son in Colombia and a parking lot attendant and salsa dance instructor in New York City to the catalyst for a global happiness movement. How did that happen?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for doing amazing research. Um, I think my life is driven by curiosity, and I just like to believe that if I'm writing a book, what kind of chapters I would like to read on that particular book, or if it's a Netflix series, what kind of like season I would love to watch. And I believe like that's part of like how I choose my anything that I do in my life. My wife says that I'm a cartoon. So if someone describes my life, it's kind of like it has a very cartoonish who's going with the world. And that is basically, again, right now I'm in my hometown. As you said, my dad is a farmer, and I was told that my future was to take care of beautiful, awesome cows that I love. And I don't think there's anything cuter than a cow just watching you. It's so beautiful. But anyways, but I I I decided just to do something different, and I was honestly collecting what were the superpowers from my mom, dad, and my grandpa, and so on. So I said, like, okay, my dad is pretty good by making friends. My mom is a hustler and she works a lot. My grandpa is a dreamer. So how can I use these three superpowers to do funny things in life? And at high school, all the time they told us that we need to be better to serve better. So I think that was something that was ingrained in my brain since a very early age. And just with that attitude of curiosity, plus the superpowers from my grandparents and my parents, and this love to serve, I think that's how I've been just jumping from here to help the guy to become the president of Colombia, or there to jump to Boston without speaking English, and ended up studying at Columbia University and giving the speech, the commencement speech, and now just in this new adventure with Patrick and our team to try to help the world to feel better through OYE.
Now tell me, I see that you spoke at Google, but I see you recently spoke to a group of Apple execs about OYE. Why do you think it's important to talk to these kinds of creators that way?
Well, I believe, first of all, the problem that we're tackling at OYE is related to mental wellness. And I think that's a gigantic problem. So somehow I believe we're also like activists of emotional wellness and creative wellness. So we find like we're able to find great partners such as Apple and others that can help us to amplify our messaging. And in terms of what is special about Apple? So many things. So first one is a community of innovators and creators, as you said. And since we're talking about creative wellness, that was a perfect like place for us. But also, they have been reinventing the way how we interact with computers or cell phones. We want to not reinvent, but we really want to accelerate the way how people take care of themselves and their creative wellness, and to feel better as well.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, the stories and the hope. What I think you gentlemen share with Jay or Jose is I heard him interviewed by a big record producer on a podcast, and he's like, 5 years before you said I'm going to be the number one Latin artist in America, and I'm going to have a shoe brand, and I'm going to do everything. And he looked at him and said, "You did all that." So I believe that the three of you are big dreamers, and you think, okay, let's just go do it. Patrick, say if I'm right or wrong.
That's absolutely true. And I'll say that the people I've met through this project, especially Jose and Mario, are some of the biggest dreamers I've ever met in my life. And I feel very lucky to be along for the ride with them. But I'm often stunned by the grandeur and of their dreams, and the practicality and the vigor with which they pursue them. Mm-hmm. And I think both Mario and Jose are from Colombia, and Colombia is an incredible country. And
why? Because they have the most beautiful women. Is that why, Patrick? They have the most beautiful women?
Well, there's a lot of things that are beautiful about Colombia. But one of them definitely is their ability to see potential for themselves and transform their reality. And Colombia is famous in literature for pioneering the genre of magical realism. And whenever I've read magical realism before, I always thought it was like a fairy tale. But I think that my colleagues, they believe in magical realism to the extent that they actually make it real. And I see that every single week where I'm like, that's a fairy tale. And then it's like, no, we're actually doing it. And so that's part of the reality. And it's you mentioned earlier the film about Jose, the boy from Medellin. And Medellin is an incredible metaphor on an urban level for the kind of transformation that we hope for on a personal level with members of OYE. And Medellin was a city in Colombia that 30 years ago would have been considered an unsafe place to visit. And now it's consistently ranked as one of the most creative, most healthy, vibrant, high quality of life cities on the planet. And that's where Jose is from. That's the country that so many of our team members are from. And that level of transformation, when you're really in the depths of fear and anger and frustration, to imagine that you could become one of the most vibrant people, just like Medellin became one of the most vibrant cities in the world. That hope is very real and relatable to all of our colleagues from Colombia because their culture has undergone a transformation like that. And now, not just on an individual level, but people, societies all around the world coming out of the pandemic, they are wanting to make that similar journey of transformation from fear to vitality. So that's part of the reason why it's so significant and maybe not surprising that the inspiration for OYE originated out of Colombia and with Colombian team members.
I love that. I'm sorry. I was going to ask you, Mario, your favorite thing about Colombia, but I feel like that just hit me, that magical realism. I mean, I know it's cows for you, right? That's your favorite thing?
It's my hometown. And in my hometown, Patrick was here pretty recently, about a month and a half ago, and it was a clear example of magical realism. It's called Ciudad Sorpresa. It's like the surprise city. But the surprise city, I think, is because just kind of like from ordinary things, extraordinary things happen. So yeah, magical realism is something that is a heart of Colombia. And my favorite thing about Colombia is my hometown, Pasto, which right now I'm sitting in front of an active volcano, which is so gorgeous. It's right there.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to just connect the dots between your question, Kim, about Apple and our discussion right now about Medellin and how it's an inspiration to us. And we love that the senior executives from Apple have been reaching out to us because it's one of the most futuristic, design-oriented companies of all time. And we are excited to partner with them to help grow our ecosystem of creative wellness in the coming years. That's a validation in a way that of what we see from numerous studies, that creative wellness really matters to businesses now. It matters to businesses because wellness drives retention, which has been a huge issue during the course of the pandemic, of people not feeling well and wanting to leave work. And creativity drives performance. Apple is a great example of it, one of the best performing companies in the world, but we see it with other companies as well. I wanted to make the connection, though, between Apple and Medellin, because when we're giving our presentation at the Apple store on Fifth Avenue, where they launched the iPhone about a decade ago, one of the pictures that we put up on the big screen there was of a coffee stall owner from the Mercado de las Flores, the flower market in Medellin, because we spent a morning at the local flower market going around and asking everybody that we bumped into there, what does creativity mean to you and what does wellness mean to you? And then we told them about our idea for OYE and just asked them what they thought about it, people of all ages. And it was truly beautiful. That I think it's just important to acknowledge wellness is not an elite thing. And we feel that for a long time, it has been a bit confined to elite circles and felt elitist. And it is, on the one hand, elite to be giving a presentation at Apple, but Apple's a platform that serves the world. And we feel that our message of creative wellness, we've seen it, resonates with people across the Americas and at all levels of society. And it's not something just for gurus or that takes years of work to access. We feel, especially after the pandemic, everybody has had an opportunity to really deepen their sense of interiority and accentuate their commitment to improving their lives, and seeing emotional wellness as part of that.
Okay, I need to ask what interiority is. Their inner lives? What are you saying?
Yes.
Inner lives. And let's get a definition of creative wellness. What would you say it really is? Because that's a new term. We're all about wellness, but I haven't heard about creative wellness.
Thank you. It means transforming your emotions into creative actions. It also means changing how we think about emotional wellness from being a private journey, a private burden that we have to bear, into a creative journey that is something that we can really make part of our lifestyle and our relationships with others. It also means becoming creative from a place of wellness. So how can we channel our emotions into, it could be art, but it could be your community service, it could be your work, it could be your family relationships. So how do we really see the emotions as not an affliction, but as an opportunity to do something new? And lastly, letting people make their own visions of wellness and be creative in finding what works for them. So you'll find on the OYE platform a really wide range of practices, from meditations led by a Mexican shaman to perreo dancing from Colombia to more traditional forms of somatic dance that help people transform their emotions through movement. So there's a whole range of things there. And we really want to encourage people to be creative and finding what works for them and trying things out.
So Mario, then I hear the word community a lot when I look at OYE, and also creators. So what does that mean to the app?
Sure. So again, the purpose of OYE is to build a community to help the world to feel better, because Patrick and myself, we are really aware that we cannot make the world feel better by ourselves or through OYE. We need to build a community. And now you, Kim, are part of this community. So we need all the help that we can get in order to help us. In fact, when you see specific facts such as the rates of depression and anxiety are just going through the roof. The consumption of antidepressants are just tripling down since the pandemic. And when you see that the second cause of death in the US among the Gen Z population is suicide, is gigantic problem. So that's why we're building this community to help the world to feel better from the creative wellness side that Patrick already explained, because we believe everyone is an artist and every artist is a healer. And every healer is an artist. And that brings me to your question of OYE Creators. So OYE Creators is a community where we believe every person is an artist, and every artist is a healer, and every healer is an artist. And every one of us speak the same language, which is, what is the most universal language in the world, Kim? The largest.
Love.
That too. But it's also is emotions, and love is also could be tagged into emotion. So regardless if you are from Russia or from Colombia, there are we speak emotions. But sometimes I'm 42 years old, and sometimes I had a conversation with a 12 years old that was way more fluent on emotions than myself. So I think this is just part of the language of emotions, and that's how we believe. On the community side, we need everyone to help us to help the world to feel better. And OYE Creators is this community of artists that can be healers, and healers that can be artists. They can express themselves by doing coding, by being barbers, by being DJs, by basically any way source of creativity. As Patrick mentioned, when we did at the beginning, him, we did a survey among 400 people across Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, and Hispanics in the US. And one of the questions was, what is your first reaction of mental health? 93% of them said is negative, is negative. So it's a negative reaction. And some of the comments said, mental health has the worst marketer ever in the world. And in fact, there is no one word in Spanish or English where you can say that you are healthy on the mental health side. So creative wellness is like this avenue that brings us to, again, transform emotions into creativity and to shape the future, which is what I'm doing right now on one of my toughest episodes I explained earlier.
Well, I find it fascinating that an artist was the one that thought of this, J Balvin. He certainly creates art. And the other thing that struck me is he has achieved his dreams and he still admits to depression and anxiety. In fact, I looked it up. 15 million adults have some sort of anxiety disorder. 31% of adults in the US suffer some kind of anxiety disorder at some time in their lives. And then the World Health Organization said depression is a leading cause of disability worldwide and a major contributor to the overall global burden of disease. So, let me ask you, Patrick, I've worked in branding and communications a long time. I love that that's what you do, but you do it, it can be looked at askew like, branding, getting people to spend more money, blah, 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 but you're doing it to help save lives. And I love the phrasing. I don't know, I'm sure you came up with it all together in a strategy session, but I love it's okay not to be okay. Make friends with your feelings, a place to feel better together. What are the ways you're trying to change languaging besides creative wellness around mental health?
Well, first and foremost, everything is in Spanish first and then in English. So this whole conversation that we're having is in English. But I think our biggest innovation in terms of language is that our team is bilingual. We are launching with a Spanish app and an English app. We have recorded all of our content in both Spanish and English, so it's not subtitled. All of our guides on the platform that lead meditation, movement, conversation practices are from Latin America. So when they're speaking in English, before we even talk about what the words are, you're hearing them with an accent that comes from a Latin American country. And putting elevating the teachers from Latin America and having the message delivered in an accent to English audiences in a Spanish accent from one of the Latin American countries is totally different than anything out there. So this is something, and I'm going to get to your question about language, but something that I learned a few years ago that somebody told me who had a cochlear implant because he was hard of hearing. He said, tone is more important than language because tone predates language in the development of our communication faculties. And so I think that there's first and foremost a recognizable and unique and powerful and beautiful tone to all of the accents that you'll hear on the OYE platform, which is something really new. Then in terms of speaking about language, what are we trying to do is make wellness practices from a variety of traditions and communities of practice and expertise really accessible to young people from across the Americas. And so we're trying to take things that sound esoteric but have value and make them easy to give that a try, make it relatable. And that's part of our goal of kind of popularizing a lot of these ideas with more simple and relatable language. So that's just a big focus of ours. And we're always asking ourselves, like, if you said this to a 16-year-old Latino boy in Los Angeles, or a gender non-conforming person in Colombia who's 20 years old, like, would this feel accessible to them? If we said this to a really macho reggaeton guy, would he be telling his friends that this is what he's doing now. So we just really push ourselves to try to make what we're doing relatable, because we see so much value in a wide range of practice traditions, and we want to give people the tools, make them accessible so they can create their own worlds of wellness.
So, one more question. I mean, I see that you were a Fulbright scholar, you went to Oxford, and you also were an editor at large for National Geographic Traveler. Okay. So, did that help you fall in love with the world and different cultures?
Yes, I would definitely describe my passion as bringing ideas across borders. And I think that that's something that OYE is an incredible catalyst for doing. And Mario has been amazing in building a really diverse team with people from across the Americas. The majority of our team is women. We're mostly based in Mexico City and Colombia, with a few people in the United States. But I think Mario is really a genius of seeing the potential of people across borders and wanting to bring people from the Americas together to have a global impact together.
So, Mario, as I mentioned, I'm married to a Cuban. He's not that macho because he married me. But let me ask you, I can totally relate to the hesitancy to therapy, the hesitancy to taking any drugs. I heard Jose interviewed, and he said, people will take pills for pain for a broken ankle, or they'll take their insulin if you're diabetic. But when it comes to the brain, they don't want to take anything. They don't want to help. So, getting a Latin man in particular to put down the walls and talk about it. But then you have the next thing. Who's going to spend $200 an hour or $140 an hour for a therapist? So how does that fit in with OYE's plans?
That was one of the of our main drivers, which is again not only 200. Actually, the average cost of therapy is $300. Which is, and also, like, you go to therapy most of the times when you are in a tough moment, or at least that's kind of like the very first time where people go to therapy, according to different conversations that we have had.
Yeah.
So OYE is mostly on the prevention side. So how you design your life, how you build your own habits that you can basically learn to place names on your emotions, canalize those emotions, and develop practices that can help you to feel good. So again, $200 or $300 is something that is really, really complex, especially for the Latinx population in the US. So for us, as of now, just two clear examples. So whoever goes to oye.co as CO of Colombia, they can get free OYE for 1 year. And that will go until October 15, which is September 15 to October 15 is Latinx Heritage Month. And that's from one end. And for the second end, we definitely want to democratize access to all these practices. And for Latin America and Latinx population, it will be very, 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 very affordable.
Okay. The other thing is, you do not seem to suffer from that problem of machismo. I do believe it's your wonderful parents that you referred to that gave you such an open heart. But what were some of the things you were raised with, some of the philosophies that made you open up to being honest to people and sharing your feelings?
Personal growth has been something that I've been taking very, very deep to my heart and prioritizing a lot over the past 20 years. So I've been doing practices from Vipassana meditation to personal growth with my wife. We have been going through couples therapies. I take therapy every other week, and among many other workshops and things that I've been doing. I think the very early example was my grandpa taught me how to meditate when I was probably like 7 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, but the process is still going. It never ends. So I think, first of all, by surrounding myself of good people, such as Patrick and the different team members that we have that also take personal growth as something that is really important to their lives. So that's something that I've been doing. Secondly, with my wife, we really prioritize personal growth. So at least we go to 3 different workshops per year, if not more. And every Sunday we prioritize different activities around how to work on that. So that's the second one. And the third one is definitely, as a happiness activist, I believe happiness is a lifestyle, and a lifestyle is just like different habits that you have on a daily basis. And when basically on Sundays, we have this exercise with my wife where we prioritize health, spirit, and work. And by having balance among those, it's something that is important. But again, machismo is still there. And I still learn things from myself, from my parents, from my grandparents that help me to gain awareness of, oh, that's where it comes from. And my job is just to kind of like update those beliefs and to break into those careers and to help people, for instance, towards OYE, to have access through all these practices that I've been having over the past 20 years, but only at a click in their cell phone.
I love that. Update those beliefs. I also, your team, I must say, I read that Jose is, including people like his personal therapist, wellness experts he knows. That's very commendable. Even the woman, Ruth, who arranged our interview, I worked in PR for a number of years. And I'll be honest with you, most PR people linked anywhere near a celebrity are rude and they ignore you or they're condescending. Ruth was everything opposite that. This has been such a pleasure. And we just want to thank you for that. I don't know what you're doing, but keep it up because it seems to be working. I read also where, you raised 3.5 million in funding. I guess it was first round, and one of the investors is co-founder of Masterclass. That's very exciting. But let's be honest. With apps, the number on the planet right now has risen to 8.93 million. I don't know how they get 0.93, but anyway. And stats show that you can get people to download an app, but the challenge is getting them to revisit it and use it. So, Patrick, maybe you could take this one. What are you guys doing to make people fall in love with OYE ahead of time?
Well, I think that our communications with members are going to be a big part of that. And so we communicate through a number of different channels, including push notifications through the app, email, social media. So we think that we've developed a brand that is going to be really compelling in both Spanish and English to next generation of people that want to work on themselves and make that a really positive part of their lifestyle. So I think the brand and our communications will be a big part of that. Also, all of that is in service of encouraging people to make this part of their life. And one inspiration that we've gotten from the world of therapy, which we were speaking about a minute ago, and by the way, OYE is an incredible complement to therapy for people who are in therapy, which you probably go to once a week. And in the interim days, we have meditations and movement practices that you can do to further explore your feelings and show up more fully for your therapy practice. So it's a great complement there. But I think one of the things that we've learned from some therapists is this idea. I asked them, actually, my girlfriend, who's a therapist, I asked her, how do you
save
market
money, Patrick? Your girlfriend's a therapist. That's a good idea.
I'm very thrifty. Yeah. So I asked her, how do you and your colleagues market yourselves to other people? How do you market therapy? And she said, there's this idea of winning the battle for initiative versus the battle for structure. And that therapists shouldn't try to win the battle for initiative. That if somebody isn't ready to work on themselves and ready to show up fully to the session, it's not the therapist's job to make them do that. The therapist's job is to meet the person who is ready to prioritize working on themselves with structure and allyship and accompaniment and take them from there. So I think that the nature of the work that we're doing is a little bit different than your average app because it's so personal and it really entails making that commitment. And we think especially after the commitment, especially after the pandemic, we don't have to fight hard for initiative, because people all over the world have said, enough. I need to commit to myself if I haven't already. If I have already, I want to find new ways to do it. I want to explore. I want to make it more creative. I want to make it more joyful. So our job is really more around providing structure and maintaining a great relationship with our members. And we think if we do that, then we're going to be able to serve a lot of people in a beautiful way.
Okay. Well, Mario, I know you're all about happy, but I also know you're not naive. I know you're positive, and when you fail, you get up again and go. So, startups, there's ups and downs. What are some of the challenges you foresee for the launch of OYE, and how can we help you with them?
Well, yeah, challenges are too many. So that's why we're building the community to help the world better. And Kim, you are part of this community. So you can help us by sharing with people that they can go to oye.co and getting their free OYE app for 1 year, which is an amazing deal, to be honest. But once its price is going to be also an amazing deal, but free, I mean, this will be fantastic. So that's one way to help us, by sharing and helping us to get people to oye.co and getting their free membership. Challenges, we have too many. Startups are a clear representation of personal growth. One of my mentors told me, sorry for the language, but he said, like, even pretty flowers grow from which means that we're just gonna get stronger by a lot of those challenges. And I'm just feeling very lucky to have a team that is using OYE's practices to help to regulate our emotions. And as Patrick said earlier, to transform those emotions into creative energy that can help the world to feel better. Promotion is the best help that you can help us right now. And by doing the practices, because once you do any of those practices, Kim, and you can feel what we feel, I think that's way much better. Like if I ask you right now, like, hey, Kim, describe how does a lemon taste? And you can come up with 1,000 words. But if you have a lemon and you squish a lemon and you try it, you're like, okay, this is it. So same thing. Help us to do the practices and to get the word out.
Well, all of this is wonderful, but we really need to make sure it makes a difference. And, I was so thrilled to have you guys on the show today, because we are the global wellness organization, but it was founded in America, and most of us speak English. I'm married to a Latin man. I have a half Latin son. And so you want to approach this globally. So we thank you for sharing words and news of this episode. But what do you see with dreaming big? Patrick, maybe you can take us home on this. Where do you see OYE in the next 5 years?
Well, I see us being a daily creative wellness ritual for millions of people around the world, and having more and more people see themselves as creative beings and cultivate their self-knowledge and emotional literacy, and really this becoming something of a movement. I also see us as having the potential, as we expand, to include more wellness experts and practitioners from other cultures, perhaps outside of the Americas, and expand the reach of this. We've started in the Americas, but like reggaeton, the spirit of what we're doing, we believe, can resonate much more broadly around the world. So we're really excited to just start to exist and grow in a conversational way as other people become inspired by what OYE is at this early stage. And the one thing that we know is that the way that we will grow will be through partnerships, and that nothing is more important or essential to our success than partnerships. So everything that we can bring to the table is only one half of the equation of what will be an answer to your question. So, now we're just entering this new phase where we get to be in conversation with with other people and other organizations more. And I believe that beautiful things will result from that.
Well, we always get the criticism in America that we're a celebrity-driven culture. I don't know if the whole world is, probably. But, knowing what J-Lo wore on her foot during her wedding, or, somebody rallying around wellness just because they know it's a good marketing ploy. But Mario, you head up the team. So it is so encouraging to see someone like J Balvin with such a platform surrounding himself with experts. So what message would you like to end with our listeners? What would you like to encourage them to do besides download the app? What lessons have you learned from happiness seeking?
Happiness is a skill, and a skill requires time, practice, and commitment to cultivate. At OYE, and same thing with creative wellness, it is a practice that requires discipline, energy, and work in order to help to unlock and discover new superpowers. In this case, emotions could be fantastic superpowers for everyone. There are no good or bad emotions. There are just emotions. Mm-hmm. So once we are aware of those emotions and we can canalize that into creative energy, we can definitely shape our future. So again, the best example that I can close this is once again. So my dad go through one of the toughest episodes of his health, and he's my favorite person in the world. And you can imagine all these emotions that are coming around me, such as sadness, guilt, shame, feeling helpless. And once I started just using these practices and just see and feel and learn from these emotions, I start tapping up into illustrators from my hometown and from other creatives. And now we're canalizing these emotions into one, a comic book. Two, we are also have been doing some beautiful things around the main things that my dad is well known to, such as love, laugh, and service. And those have been inspiring others. So today I just received a message from someone that say like, hey, thanks for reminding me to work on my joy. And today I gave this book with a personalized autograph to this person, and that just made my day. And again, so I'm shaping the future of that person that is helping to create and unlock something different. So again, just emotions unlock creativity to shape your future. So that's part of my learnings on happiness and how I'm bridging those to this new world.
Well, you know what? It is a ripple effect. It is a ripple effect. I hear all kinds of people doing amazing things on this podcast. And I want to tell you, I tell people I have wellness Tourette's now. I'm always like, oh, download this app or listen to this podcast or look at this movie. So thank you for being now in our Global Wellness family. And we're so excited and thrilled that you've decided to share happiness, and tell Mr. Balvin that we're thrilled too. So what we can do to share this with the world, we will. And we'll see you soon, we hope. And give the cows a big hug for us, Mario, will you?
Absolutely, Kim. Thank you so much. I mean, no place. I will send the cows a huge hug from the whole global wellness community. They feel very well.
All right. Thanks, Patrick. Take another hike in Maine for us too. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.